morning, everyone. Okay, so I think we should make this, or like finish up this case, and thus the first Phoenix Wright game, within the next 2 streams. Unfortunately, this is going to be my only stream this week, as I'm going to be, unavailable for my other 2 usual stream dates. So, it'll be a while, but, next week we'll finish this game. But not to worry, as we're still gonna make plenty of progress tonight. This case is just incredibly long. Now, with that being said, I'm going to actually open up the game. Hey, Apple Pine Tree, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for checking out the stream. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. That's because I started streaming with the Layton games because I'm a big fan of those. They're real good. I can't wait to get to the Ace Attorney Layton crossover game. All right, so the last thing that happened the previous stream. Let's see, we were questioning Meekins. And what his testimony led us to find out was... What was it? Oh yeah, it was that Officer Marshall was the one that was in the evidence room. So we have a reason to believe that he was the one who attacked Meekins. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Ms. Lana Skye. Emma didn't come back. Oh shit, yeah, Emma ran off too, fuck. I'm all alone. Yeah, I was started up a little bit more quickly than I kneel. Yeah, Rise from the Ashes is amazing, it's just so long. Like, it practically feels like its own standalone game. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. And he's drinking on the witness stand. Oh, you're doing wonders for your credibility here, bud. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know! You're a patrolman! As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They say I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. Yeah, I don't want to know how he got that in here. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yep, this is the cowboy. Actually, I think he's the only cowboy. Yeah, like, not even when you go to, the Wild West and Gatewater Land, you don't really see any cowboys there. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines, or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Okay. Yeah, like, he references Texas all the time, but he's like, oh no, I just saw a documentary about Texas once, and now it's my whole identity. So, you know, like, that's pretty standard man behavior. 2 security systems. You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner. I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a back works. That's quite, incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too. At any rate, it doesn't seem like this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? No, but I know he was there. I know he was there because we have his yes, his fingerprints. Gotcha. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or, to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. Once a month? That's dereliction of duty, my friend. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away. However, a luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me, there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints. Found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See? I had nothing to do with it. Hey, how did you know the murderer was wearing gloves, bub? The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something. I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. Okay. But before I get to that, I think this also sounds fishy. That's because you... how did you put it? Pay your respects once a month? If he's the murderer, I can fix him. Yeah, that's right. And one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently, his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. He must have been using that fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Alright, so his fingerprint data's been updated. Found a bloody handprint on Marshall's own locker. Print had been wiped. But I also want to know how you knew he was wearing gloves. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I'll still do my job. I'll keep up on the reports. There was a bloodstain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found in Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean... the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? The seal of blood. In the desert, it's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. Oh, god damn it, please don't tell me I have to watch that again. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. That deserves a little press. What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I saw in that video, but I didn't have a chance to point it out, because it wasn't relevant. at the time. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. God, I hope this is the last one. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall. Okay. Again with this shit. What I'm looking for is right at the end, so I have to. I'm holding enter to fast forward through this, but I gotta. Yeah. There we go. Now there's something inside this locker. There! How's that for evidence? Please allow me to apologize for my colleague, Your Honor. Oh, I had to click right on it, didn't I? He gets carried away sometimes. Yes, well, this certainly isn't a first. Will you forgive him too, Officer Marshall? He's not a bad man, just a bit disillusioned. Of course, I'm not one to gun down unarmed boys. Oh, great. Now Edgeworth is defending me. Guess that means I missed the mark. Okay, now I gotta... Damn it, do I have to go through all of this again? Can't let him swim out of this one. Okay, gotta press that last... Not that one. God damn it. Already been through all this dialogue. I know what was you in that video. Alright, let's watch this again! Okay. I'll even point it out for better emphasis this time. Okay, so this locker right at the end is Marshall's. And you can see there's nothing in it right now. But by the time he's left the room, there's gonna be like a little white piece of cloth sticking out of the bottom here. But I made the mistake of like clicking the edge of the locker instead of the cloth itself. Okay, let me click directly on it. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll not soon forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witnesses, I believe. And now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Hi, I'm winning. I don't think the cowboy is. I just busted his testimony wide open. Hope you're doing good, Dolly. Oh! The white cloth! It's gone! What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order! Order! It would seem that hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was opened? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker, now prove it. I didn't mean to present my attorney's badge. Oh, thank God. Okay, what am I... Where do I have info that it's fingerprint activated? Yes, okay, this. Fingerprint Sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say? In 8 words or less. I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! Witness, explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Ole! Please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here. We can. Have a look at these floor plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet, Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall hiding at the time of the crime? Was he... Because the Badger's like right here. Was he behind the Badger? Take that! Officer Marshall was standing right here. So Officer Meekins didn't notice him standing there. That's almost as credible as Meekins' warp theory. Your chamber's empty, partner. Better reload. And now they're ganging up on me. Perhaps you should think a little more about where Officer Marshall was. Officer Meekins should have seen him in the evidence room. And that means the only place he could have been would be... Well then, let's hear it. Oh, shit. Well, if Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall, then maybe it was because Marshall was disguised as Goodman at the time. Take that! Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me! Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. And we got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have evidence, or do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take desert heat. He said, drinking on the stand from a flask. Ugh, this can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics. For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside of the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. What do you think this locker was open? Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that. He opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all of our unanswered questions. Oh, fucking again? I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Okay. At least I can count on my friend the Blue Badger to keep me company. Oh shit! Oh, there's blood all over his shoulder! He probably needed to clean that off so it wouldn't be obvious that they fought someone. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end, yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat? You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago. If you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now would we? That's really ominous. Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. Alright, it seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I just couldn't stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out, and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you? But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Yeah, there was blood everywhere, dude! Alright. Okay, so what couldn't you let die? When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I... stole the detective's... Okay. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But you could, because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins, and I knocked him out. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID? I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Ah, you mean this one? Ugh. I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and managed to escape. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. He stabs someone with that knife and he still shaves with it. Oh, come on, he like rinsed it off in the bathroom sink. It's fine. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. His hair, like, he probably has like the fastest growing beard ever. Like, if he's not constantly shaving, he's gonna end up looking like the judge in about 5 minutes. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So, you stole the evidence from the locker? Actually, no I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Okay, not when you're a witness in a trial, in court, at the witness stand. Then you're pretty much compelled to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? Let's press and find out. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I'd better take another look at the files. Oh yeah! Lana gave me the SL9 files, and I didn't even look at them. She did it like... Okay, files for the Joe Dark killing solved 2 years ago. Perpetrator, Joe Dark. Serial murder. Death sentence. Victims, Edward Jones, Jason Knight, Edith Kirby, Rachel Moss, Jeb Bush, and Neil Marshall. Oh! It seems there's a little relation there. That would be his motive, wouldn't it? The Neil reveal. Alright, Head Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth, witnesses Lana Skye, Emma Skye, investigators Damon Gant, Lana Skye, Bruce Goodman, Jake Marshall, Angel Star. Damn, that's everybody! Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah. I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. And he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. That really is a stupid name for that award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. Oh my god, dude, that's your real hair? It's not just like a cloth or something to keep the sun off your neck? That's what your hair looks like? I'm sorry, but that's just horrid. Also, he was my brother, so obviously he had to be a cowboy as well. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Well, howdy! Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. Oh, gee, Mads Mikkelsen! He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened to the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office's parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait! A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. It seems to me, this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries of the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Ms. Angel Starr is completely incontestable. Except for the fact that she was lying every sentence. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Fuck! I rest my case. It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Emma! Your Honor, wait! Emma, the defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Phoenix needs to do an entire Olympic gymnastics routine in every trial, but all the prosecutors need is to say the defendant is guilty, and the judge is like, that sounds about right, okay, guilty. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? In a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. Damn, he's being generous. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dart killings? Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry. I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright, with regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint in Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? I guess so. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Oh, okay, I was ahead of myself earlier. It's the fact that the badger was supposed to be there too. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use. The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans? My friend, the blue badger panel! Take that! What about that piece of plywood? The blue badger! Mascot of the police force! Honestly, I wish I could buy the rights to the blue badger away from the police force and just make him a funny little dude. He doesn't deserve to be a police mascot, he just deserves to be like a little creature. A funny little guy. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? Oh, he's losing it. So that means, just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there.
Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically.
Emma.
On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker.
So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in? Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom, unless it's coming out of the mouth of a sexy lady. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor. It's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. Whew, that's quite the demand. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? Okay, so what do I have that relates to time? Okay, I have the parking stub, which that's for the prosecutor's office crime scene, so that's not relevant. Okay, Goodman's autopsy report. Okay, so here we have a record of everyone that came in and out of here. So it's gotta be that. That means... So whoever is 77777 and came in at 4:20 p.m., that is probably who killed Goodman. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record! Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Ah! Miles Edgeworth! Just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 7777777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7777777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 7777777. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I am unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least, at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. That sounds like a pretty big flaw in the system, my friend. But that's ridiculous! Just how? I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her. The defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Hey, Nikki, I missed you. Of course, we've looked up her ID number, and it's not 7777777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident. Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Oh shit.
Lana!
I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved.
But, Lana!
Even if it involved forging evidence. Oh shit. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No! Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. So, what's important to gather there that's not outright stated is that because Lana fed false evidence into the investigation, that means that Edgeworth unknowingly presented false evidence as well. So that has done a great deal to shake his confidence as a prosecutor and in the moral righteousness of his position. That's why he reacted so hugely. Alright, so now we move into the final investigation portion. Which is gonna take a fucking while. Alright, February 24th afternoon, back at the office.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said.
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved.
I didn't know. I never knew the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dart killings.
Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings but me, because I live under a rock.
Lana wanted Dark convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me.
What do you mean, what happened to you?
It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence.
The Joe Mama killings? But what did you have to do with those killings, Emma?
On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me.
What? He tried to kill you?
Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was only trying to save me.
So that means you...
Yes. I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial.
I didn't see that one coming.
It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day. Unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together when she finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office.
Joe Dark. Joe Mama.
It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up.
Jake Marshall's brother.
Joe Mama tried to take me hostage, but before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then,
what happened?
I'll never forget it. Lightning struck, and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I can still see it now.
A permanent picture? What did you see in the instant that crime occurred?
Dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife.
Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl.
I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms.
Poor Emma. You've been through so much.
I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good.
2 years ago. You must have been 14. That's understandable.
Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I want to be able to fight crime with my testimonies, and find the evidence to make an airtight case. That way, Lana would never have to forge any.
I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime.
I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall.
So you weren't able to testify about that?
No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why Lana... why she made up the crime.
Made it up? You mean provided bogus evidence?
The prosecutor's office wanted that guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence, and Mr. Edgeworth used it.
Edgeworth?
Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean, it's all my fault. I could have just testified properly, none of this would have happened.
So it's true.
Even though he may not have known it, Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold, like she is today.
She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma.
What is it?
You said you were in Lana's office at that time, right?
That's right.
Why then would a serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor?
Oh, there's no mystery there. Joe Mama had been taken in for questioning that day.
Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police?
Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office.
But why did he run all the way over to your sister's office?
Because the detective offices in the questioning room are right across from the elevator.
Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she?
No, silly! Didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective.
How do you go from detective to chief prosecutor in 2 years?
She was the best in the entire force.
What? That's news to me.
After the Joe Mama case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor.
Lana used to be a detective? I'd better have another talk with her. Alright, to the detention center then.
Lana.
Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence? I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul. Why should we?
But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty.
Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you.
Oh?
About how you were a detective 2 years ago, and how the SL9 incident was the reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office.
That's right.
Could you fill me in on the details? Especially about that unusual change of jobs? I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I suspected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be.
That trial, it really wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth.
It couldn't be helped, Emma. At that trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15, there was no murder at the police department.
Tell me it's not true, Lana! What the witness, Miss Starr, said. About you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us?
Emma, this doesn't involve just me. Phoenix just like, good lord, anyway. I don't think I've seen Lana look so phased before. It's true. I was a member of the police force 2 years ago.
She was amazing! They still talk about all the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together.
Chief Gant?
He was the deputy chief of police back then, but he still worked the crime scenes.
Oh wait, was that Emma or Lana? Whoops, I didn't even pay attention. Damon Gant. He was everything I aspired to be.
They were the best team ever! They solved crimes before the reports could even be filed!
Emma really idolizes her big sister. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened?
I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes, so you could use that experience in court, right?
Gant's help in the SL9 case was crucial to its resolution. After that, he became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of theirs 2 years ago. Two years ago... Milky alert! We have a Category 5 pair of bazongas in the vicinity! Oh, God. I need to spray Nikki with the hose. That is the garden hose, not like H-O-E-S. 2 years ago, I was second in command of the detectives investigating Dark. Second in command? That means the investigation lead was Damon Gant, right?
Yes. Deputy Chief Gant and I shared the same office and the same investigations.
We even had the same office. And they were office mates. No, that's nothing.
We led a team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was, Jake Marshall, and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come in for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. That was when his final murder took place.
When he tried to murder Emma.
Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark. You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me.
Now you tell us.
Damon Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day.
I feel like if my name was Joe Dark, I wouldn't have a choice. Like, that's like being named the Joker.
The investigation was in its final stages, and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall let their guards down, then fled the room. From there, he ran straight to the office shared by Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me.
So, you were the first person to run to the scene, Lana?
It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark.
Oh shit.
When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood.
3 bodies? Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who had passed out. Joe Dark is an anagram for D, Joker.
And the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious.
What did you do?
To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and just held her. Can't blame her, after all her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest.
Let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident?
That's right. Quite a coincidence, hmm?
I don't buy it.
What are you saying?
There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident. Just by chance.
But that case was solved 2 years ago!
At least one person went to extremes, because they didn't believe it was truly solved.
Officer Marshall. Yes, his actions came as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he's changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case just might not be over yet. Huh? Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damon Gant and I shared. The office that Mr. Gant now occupies by himself. The Chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the Chief's office. The site of the final SL9 murder. Well, I know where we're going next.
Howdy, Bambina.
Oh, Mr. Marshall!
I never thought things would turn out this way when I woke up this morning. Que sera, sera. You never know where life will lead you, eh, Bambina? I should have known my luck had run out when old Billy had dried up this morning.
Billy?
Must be his pet cactus. Say, where are you headed? Just over to the prosecutor's office for a little interrogation. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but you can't go in the evidence room today, partner.
But Mr. Marshall, why did you do it?
A lot of prospectors head west. If ever there was a case I needed to know the truth about, it was that one. Before you turn yourself in, Mr. Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. Something was fishy about that trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean, fishy? Some of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. The murder weapon? You mean that switchblade knife with the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's, alright, but in the initial autopsy report, a question was raised.
A question?
The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the wound the victim sustained. What does that mean? It means there's a good chance that knife was not the murder weapon. However, in the report that was finally submitted, that possibility had been erased. Could the facts have been concealed with forged evidence? That case left behind scars on all of us.
The scars that the SL9 incident left behind.
There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in that investigation, save one, was taken care of. The star was fired, and I was demoted and boxed away in a tiny room. What about Detective Goodman? If they did something to him too, the commissioners would get suspicious. Nah, they were careful enough not to be too obvious. They?
Who are you talking about?
Don't get upset, Bambina. I mean Damon Gant and Lana Skye. The investigation lead, Damon Gant, and his second-in-command, Lana Skye. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both of their careers. After the case ended, Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yeah. Damon Gant, the new chief of police, arranged for that to happen. She's never been the same since she left. Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Skye was totally different when she was a detective. Now that he mentions it, Emma said something like that too.
Tell me, what happened to my sister?
Sorry, Bambina, but her secret is too well guarded. I never found out. Lana's secret. It all started 2 years ago. I got the looks, but he got the brains. He was one of the best prosecutors around. Honestly, I think he got the looks too. I just made detective when it went down. It was our first case together.
How old was he? Your brother?
He was 27 at the time. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the King of Prosecutors? I knew it. What are you looking at me like that for? That's an honor for a prosecutor. Mr. Marshall must have really been close with his brother.
The day the SL9 incident took place, that wasn't the same day as...
That's right. It was the day of the evidence transferal. Oh, interesting. It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. I can't believe 2 years have gone by already. I tried to seal the evidence so the case wouldn't die. Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered, and the evidence locker was empty. So there you have it. That's my story. Would you enjoy it, partner? It was certainly enlightening. There's one thing for sure I found out in court today. That boy Edgeworth isn't my enemy. He was the one who used falsified evidence to get a guilty verdict. But someone else was the one who gave him that evidence and planned everything. That someone is Damon Gam. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. I won't even be a patrolman after today. Too bad I won't be around to work with you when you become a real scientific investigator. Adios, Bambina. Damn, he's a lot more tragic than I remember. I feel bad for making fun of his hair now. Okay, so trying to get into Gant's office, right? This place is always pretty empty, but today it's deserted.
That must mean everyone's busy solving crimes.
Oh, if you're looking for the others, they're all in the conference room. Thanks. Wow, he actually talked to us. With the chief prosecutor saying what she did and the decision about what to do, about Mr. Edgeworth, not to mention our statement to the media and tomorrow's trial, there's more chaos going on than Thanksgiving and Christmas put together. I think festive is the word usually used for those.
Sir? We'd like to have a look around Chief Gant's office.
Just use the connecting hallway to the other building and take the elevator to the top floor.
Really? You mean it's okay for us to go in there? I mean, we aren't police officers or anything.
Hey, you're right! You can't go in there! It's off limits! Now I see where Detective Gumshoe gets his unique charm.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's head to the chief's office!
Let's look at the badger. So this is the police mascot, is it? The Blue Badger, the future star of the police force.
The design's a little changed from the one outside.
Oh well, the dancing Blue Badger, trademark, is still under development, you see.
You have it trademarked?
Absolutely, it's cutting-edge stuff. Very now. I showed this doll here to my daughter, and she burst into tears! Don't show her the moving mock-up outside, then. I'll give her nightmares. He's so proud of it, too! Okay. Shit! What the fuck? Okay, Ganondorf, you got a whole fucking organ in your office? At the police department? Like, actual Ganondorf move. This is just like the end of Ocarina of Time. Whoa. Where am I? This honest to God looks like... This looks like the top floor of Hyrule, like of Ganon's tower. Diane? February 24th, 11:30 a.m. I'm smoking on that shit that killed Neil Marshall. Whoa, where am I?
In the chief's office, silly. At least, that's what it said on the door.
Check out that pipe organ. That's real, isn't it?
Hey, I used to take organ lessons in kindergarten. They used to call me Little Miss Bach. I thought I was a genius until they tried teaching me notes.
Where are you playing it?
I never could remember where C was.
Hmm? Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading on his in his desk. So, righto. Have you been swimming lately? No, I haven't. I've been kind of busy lately. I can appreciate that. I've had my hands full too with Mr. Marshall's misconduct. And Lana's provocative statement. Provocative statement. Oh, you mean about the forged evidence. 2 years have passed since that incident. My, how time flies. I am not checking out the pipes on that organ. You see that big picture on the wall over there? That's a picture of Lana, Neil, and me. So this is Mr. Marshall's brother. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Check out the balls on that man! We took it to commemorate our work together. Something's not right with this picture. I can't quite seem to put my finger in it, though. Okay, Gant team picture. Photo at the awards ceremony of Gant, Lana, and Neil. Anyway, I'd like to reminisce all day, but there are matters that need my attention. I'm gonna lock up here, so let's go out together.
Oh, but this office, it was a crime scene 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That case has long since been over. There's no need to investigate it anymore. All the same, we'd still like to have a look around. Perhaps you didn't hear me. Love his office. His office is golden armor, organ, normal desk, and computer. Perhaps you didn't hear me. I said there's no need to investigate it anymore. Now hurry up and get out! I have a meeting to attend.
Looks like we aren't welcome.
It seems that case isn't over with yet, after all.
What do you mean?
Chief Gant denied our request to search the crime scene. And that means there must be a reason he doesn't want us looking around in there.
You mean like a clue?
There's got to be a way we can get inside the chief's office.
Hey, Gumshoe! I think we need you to help us out, buddy.
Hey, pal!
Hi, honey, I missed you.
Detective Gumshoe, aren't you supposed to be in a meeting? I'm, just taking a breather. My feet hurt.
From sitting so long?
Actually, from serving everyone coffee. Sounds like Detective Gumshoe's still out of the loop. Say, have either of you seen Mr. Edgeworth? Edgeworth? No. Why do you ask? He's under fire from both the police department and the prosecutor's office. It's almost like the battle's between you two in court. That sounds serious.
Is it because of what my sister said?
That's basically what it all boils down to. That falsified evidence 2 years ago. Now Mr. Edgeworth has the whole world after his blood.
Yikes.
But why would Edgeworth be blamed? It's not like he knew the evidence was forged. Lana Skye is the guilty party here.
isn't she?
Regardless, the prosecutor is responsible for the evidence they present in court. Not only that, but as you know, there have been a lot of rumors going around about Mr. Edgeworth. His amazing talent as a prosecutor has kept him safe from those who don't like him. But now, with this...
Are there really so many people who hate him?
In our world, only those with talent rise to the top. Mr. Edgeworth not only has that, but he's young. There's no better recipe I know of for making enemies. Hey, Dick! Keep up the good work! Yes, sir! I'm glad you like that, because I'm not super confident in it. I'm just trying to make it husky and, like, I don't know, something vaguely between Chicago and Brooklyn. With my only reference being, like, Law and Order. Let's go out for lunch again sometime, my treat! Yes, sir! You gotta take me back to that joint sometime, okay, Dick? Yes, sir! It seems you don't have any problems with enemies. Yeah, well, I'm careful not to stick out. Anyway, I'm a bit worried about him. Under all this pressure, I'm afraid Mr. Edgeworth just might crack. Actually, I took a look at the file earlier while the coffee was brewing. He seems genuinely concerned for Edgeworth. Well, did you find anything? The only evidence Stark left behind was during his final attack. His final attack? You mean when he killed Prosecutor Marshall, who was trying to protect some girl?
Me. I'm some girl.
It seems Detective Gumshoe never realized Emma was the girl. That's when he left the most incriminating evidence of all.
Well, what was it?
Oh, let's see. I think it had something to do with the murder weapon. Oh, I forget. Look, it's all written somewhere in here, okay? His powers of recollection never fail to impress.
Maybe we should show him the murder weapon. It might jog his memory.
So... could that be... not that one, but the other knife. About this. Hey, is that... It has a tag attached to it with the label SL9 incident on it. I believe this would be the broken murder weapon you were speaking of. What are you doing with that? Ever since that case was closed, that knife's been locked away in a locker.
On the day Detective Goodwin was murdered, this suddenly disappeared from the locker. And was found in Mr. Edgeworth's car muffler.
That's it! Now I remember what that incriminating piece of evidence was! When you showed me that knife, it all came back to me!
Well, what is it, Detective? Quick, before you forget again!
This knife... it was Joe Dark's, wasn't it? That's right. We traced it back to the store he bought it at. Plus, it had his fingerprints on it, too.
But no one actually witnessed him using it to murder anyone, right?
That's where his luck ran out. Hey, Kara! Gant has only made one brief appearance when he was shooing us out of his office, so you didn't miss him too much. When you take a good look at the knife, you'll see it's broken.
You don't have to take a good look to notice that.
Yeah, well, anyway, take a guess where the broken off tip of that knife was found. That's what did him in.
Where was it?
The victim, Neil Marshall, was carrying it inside his own body. It was found deep inside the stab wound. Did it match Dark's knife? You bet, down to the last fiber.
That's pretty conclusive.
Neil's autopsy report. Congratulations, Neil, you're dead. Stabbed in the back, died from punctured heart and lung. A knife tip was in the wound. Okay, switchblade knife updated. The broken tip was found in the victim's body, belonged to the murderer, Joe Dark. Joe Dark was 42 at the time of the crime. He was just your run-of-the-mill businessman. A businessman? What made him take to serial killing? Oh, he turns out he read the manga JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable. He was like, oh man, this dude has a sweet life! So then he decided to be like Yoshikage Akira. One day on his way home from work, he hit someone with his car.
With his car? So, it was an accident.
An accident, yes, but it transformed him into an animal.
An animal? Oh, like Animorphs!
A kid walked by just then, so we killed him too. Then, shit, a jogger came from the scene and was killed as well. Finally, he turned himself in. That text was auto-advancing, so I didn't get to read all of it, I'm sorry. Seems he was a pretty careless animal. Of course, this is all conjecture. There wasn't a single shred of evidence. So, he turned himself in. Yes, but in the middle of his questioning, he fled and murdered his final victim, Prosecutor Marshall. That crime was witnessed by someone too, but luckily Dark was arrested on the spot. It's a good thing that last witness wasn't killed. That last witness, aka Emma. Well, there you have it in a nutshell. That's all I know. Can I ask you one more thing? What is it? If it's money you need, you should ask Chief Gant. It's not money, but it does concern the Chief. His office is a crime scene, right? It's where Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered.
The Chief's out now, and his office is locked. But we'd like to have a look around, if that's okay.
Well, any detective's ID card can unlock the door.
What? Really?
But if I let a civilian in there, I'd be charged with breach of trust.
Breach of trust?
Simply put, I'd be canned. Oh. Sorry, pal. I don't plan on getting fired because of you.
How about this ID card? It was Detective Goodman's.
That won't work either. The data was deleted the day he died. Damn, they work fast.
Oh.
So, in other words, Gumshoe's our only chance of getting into that office.
I wonder if there's something we could show him that would make him change his mind.
Look at my badge. Detective, here's my attorney's badge. You show this to me every time we meet, pal. Real men show their police badge. Enough said. That's not true.
I wish I had a badge. Even an ID card would be nice.
What can I show you? I don't think I have it yet. So... let's move on. Have not been to see Edgeworth yet. No one's here today. Not even Miss Starr.
Everyone's probably busy looking into what exactly went down in the evidence room. That must be where the detectives are.
But we proved in court today that, on the day of the crime, no one was murdered in the evidence room at 5:15 p.m. The weenie box is, that's not Angel Stars, that's Gumshoes.
Yeah, I thought we were finally making some headway in our case.
But instead it looks like we just ended up making Lana look even more guilty.
Hang in there, Lana.
I've got to find all the answers by tomorrow. Back to Edgeworth's fruity little office. I wonder if Edgeworth is back yet.
There he is! It looks like he's writing something.
What are you doing here? He sure was quick to throw that paper on the floor. Tough day in court, huh? I bet he smells like Jean-Paul Gaultier's pour him. I've had to live the past 2 years with rumors flying around. What's another allegation to me?
Cheer up, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm rooting for you.
That's Edgeworth for you. Always trying to hide his real feelings. So, what do you want? Unlike some people, I don't have all day. There's no excuse for what I've done. 2 years ago, I used false evidence to obtain a guilty verdict. That's what it all breaks down to, and nothing I do can erase that fact. But you didn't know, did you? I mean, that the evidence was falsified. The police department and the prosecutor's office share a bond of trust. If that bond is broken, we stand to lose everything. The police department's error is my error. My responsibility as the prosecutor in charge. That fact remains the same no matter what excuses I might have.
Mr. Edgeworth.
I take pride in my work. So tell me why? Why has it all come to this? Even Edgeworth can't keep that kind of emotion bottled up. Are you up for the trial tomorrow? First last year's trial, and now this one. It seems all you do is worry about me. And to be honest, you're getting on my nerves.
But Mr. Edgeworth, you can't just walk out on the trial.
Tomorrow's the last day. It's too late to change prosecutors. I'll bet that's what my superiors are banking on. I never thought that case would come back to haunt me like this. What do you mean? The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. It's only half as long as most lists? That is odd. After Neil Marshall was murdered, I became prosecutor for that case. I may not have been part of the investigation, but I knew what I had to do. Use the evidence I was given to prove the suspect guilty. That was really the only thing on my mind at the time.
Say, we just saw a picture taken around that time.
That picture? Something seems strange about it. This list is Wolverine-esque. This list seems quite Logan-esque. Oh, it's too short. Could you tell us again about what happened that day? The day Detective Goodman was murdered? You were participating in a ceremony over at the station, right? I've never cared for ceremonies, but I had to attend that one.
Because you were awarded this.
Those receiving awards can't exactly skip out on the ceremony. I finished up at the office in the morning, then drove over to the police department. You finished up at the office? Yes. Just odds and ends. Clerical stuff. I didn't plan on returning to the office that day. That is, until I was asked to take something back.
Take something back?
This.
Oh yeah! Chief Gant asked you to hold on to that, didn't he?
Yes. It was a piece of evidence in a case that was closed half a year ago. He asked me to bring it back to the prosecutor's office. That's the story we heard yesterday. So you came back here to the prosecutor's office because the chief asked you to? That's right. Look at this photograph. His picture was hanging on the wall in Chief Gant's office. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He had just started making a name for himself. Looks like this was taken when he received the King of Prosecutors trophy.
Speaking of that, there's something that bothers me.
Yes?
The trophy Mr. Marshall is holding. It's a little different than yours.
Yes, you're right. Ah, I remember now. Remember what? That was what the official prosecutor's trophy looked like until 2 years ago. There's a story behind its design.
A story?
Sounds interesting. Would you mind telling it to us? It's simple, really. Contradiction. That's what the award's based on. This award originates from an ancient Chinese tale. In Chinese, the word contradiction is written with 2 characters. The first means halberd, and the second means shield. Have you heard this story? Me? Oh, sure. Everyone knows that. Why don't you tell it, though? For Emma's sake. Very well. Long ago in the kingdom of Chu, there was an arms merchant. One day he presented the king with 2 items. The first was a halberd he claimed could slice through any shield or armor. The second was a shield he claimed could withstand any weapon. Wait a minute. Those claims contradict each other. Very perceptive. But then again, you've heard this story before, right? Anyway, as you mentioned, the very descriptions of these items discredit them both. When the king pointed this out, the merchant was left speechless, and thus the Chinese wrote the Chinese word for contradiction was born.
Oh, I see. So the chipped shield and broken knife symbolize...
Precisely so. They symbolize the merchant's items. The ancient tale ends with the merchant at a loss for words, but it's in our nature to pursue matters to their conclusion, even if it results in something as ugly as this.
Wow. Thanks, Mr. Edgeworth. I learned something new today.
That's funny. If that's so, then why were you only given a shield? You'll have to ask Chief Gant. 2 years ago, he had the halberd part of the award abolished. Chief Gant. Alright, so now the trophy's been updated. 2 years ago, the halberd was removed at Gant's behest, giving it its current form. Now that's really odd, don't you think? Now, what did you throw on the ground right as I walked in here? I wonder what he was writing before.
Come on, Mr. Wright. Let's take a look.
Are you crazy? Edgeworth is sitting right there.
Just distract him. I'll check it out.
Hey, Edgeworth! Is that Detective Gumshoe out the window there? Oh no, he's falling to the ground! Oh, hold on. But first let me see what this girl's doing crawling around my feet. He didn't even look.
What? Letter of...
If you're having trouble reading, I'll read it for you. It says, Letter of Resignation. Resignation? Edgeworth, you don't mean... I'm tired, right? I feel as if something inside me has died.
But Mr. Edgeworth, none of it is your fault.
I know the path I've walked. You don't need to tell me. And the path I've walked hasn't been a just one. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. And no one else should forgive me either. Uh-oh. I think he's serious.
Mr. Wright, please, you have to do something.
This letter of resignation. I wonder if I can use it for anything. Fuck you! Edgeworth's discarded letter of resignation. He's serious. Oh my god, I bet this is if this is what I have to show to Gumshoe to get him to help me.
Excuse me? Would either of you care for a quarter pound of roast beef?
Miss Star! I guess she's out of lunches.
You certainly are the curious sort, aren't you? Kind of like the first person who sucked a cow's nipple to discover milk.
God, good lord. Miss Star, is that an invitation?
Still, I never thought you'd go digging up that case from 2 years ago.
Everyone in this trial was involved in the SL9 incident. Not only that, but the murder occurred on the very day the evidence from that case was due for transferal. This can't all be attributed to mere coincidence.
Aren't you forgetting something? You know, that little scene I happened to witness.
The instant Lana stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife.
No matter how much of the past you dig up, it won't change what I saw. Roast beef is meant to be savored when eaten.
Ms. Star's hatred toward Lana. It all dates back to 2 years ago.
Joe Mama. That's a name I'll not soon forget. We trailed him for half a year. Oh, the pressure. Still, I don't think I was ever more alive than I was then. Those days were steamier than a bowl of hot gravy. Poor old Jake Marshall, though, must have been going through hell.
You mean because of his brother's death?
They were close, those two. After Neil died, something took over Jake. He became obsessed. Seeing Jake like that made her all the more desperate.
Her? Lana Skye.
My sister? The best of the best were put on that SL9 case. Of course they were led by that legendary duo. Lana and Chief Gant. Damon Gant and Lana Skye.
I thought she was misgendering Marshall. Oh my god.
Gant led the investigation, with Lana second in command. They were the best. They solved all kinds of cases together, didn't they? Damon Gant's magnetism in particular was almost unreal.
His magnetism.
By that I mean his ability to attract evidence. He'd produced the most incredible evidence in the cases he handled.
Incredible evidence? You mean...
Oh, yes. There were rumors about him even back then. No one dared confront him, though.
I take it she's talking about forged evidence.
Back then, everyone looked up to Lana. All the detectives wanted to be like her. Really? Oh, yes. Myself included. I was a fool, really. She hated anything crooked and always watched out for the other detectives. That's why she was so concerned for Jake. Mr. Marshall. When Jake's brother was murdered, she felt as if she had lost her own brother. If it wasn't for her, I don't think Jake would ever have recovered from his shock. That's what makes it all the more infuriating. Miss Starr. That's why I'll never be able to forgive her. Why did she have to turn so cold after that? That legendary pair was the reason we were able to keep up our investigation. That's why we were so shocked over how it turned out.
You mean with the forging of the evidence?
Don't get me wrong. Joe Dark got what he deserved. Still, it was obvious the evidence produced in court was being manipulated. Items our team never found would suddenly appear, while other items were kept secret. But you don't have any proof anything illegal was done. I'm proof enough of what happened. After that case, all of us save Goodman were relieved of our duties. Most without even so much as an explanation. Then Lana Skye transferred to the prosecutor's office and became chief prosecutor. Lana always wanted to be a prosecutor. Nothing's quite as simple as it appears. Uh-huh? Lana Skye was merely being used as a pawn. That's my take on the matter. She was being used? Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office 2 years ago, didn't she? Yes, thanks to Chief Gant's powerful influence. Chief? That's right. Having solved the SL9 case, his position as chief was secured. There was only one thing left for him to control, and then no one can stand in his way. The prosecutor's office. What? You mean that's why Lana was transferred? If he could control the chief prosecutor, he could control the prosecutor's office. That must have been his goal all along. But how could he control Lana? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. Ever since that case ended, she's never been the same. It's only logical to conclude. There must have been a reason for her change. At last. I'm finally getting close to the bottom of this ugly mess. Thank you, Miss Starr. You listen to me, rookie. It takes more than just ingredients to create fine cuisine. I hope you turn out to be a better chef than I've been. Alright. Now to make Gumshoe help us get into Gant's office. Oh, you're back. You're still here? I gotta make 150 copies of these files. Now to seduce Gumshoe! Brewing coffee, copying files. I'm turning into a regular DJ! You're a DJ as well? If I'm not mistaken, I think he means desk jockey. Oh, that DJ. Damn it, I thought Gumshoe was gonna collaborate with Skrillex! I gotta admire your persistency, but my answer's still no. Huh? I'm not letting you into the chief's office, period. It'd be my neck on the line. That office is the last crime scene in the SL9 incident. I have to take a look in there. There's gotta be something we can do to make the detective change his mind. I know. Hey, look! Edgeworth's gonna resign! What's this crumpled up piece of paper? No way! Mr. Edgeworth can't be serious! Is he ever not serious? I can't believe they pushed him this far! Mr. Edgeworth really feels responsible. When I first met him, I thought he was cold as ice too. But I know different now. He trusted us detectives to provide him with sound evidence, but we betrayed him. Detective? That's it. I've made up my mind. But... Here, take my ID card. We can't do that. If someone found out... They wouldn't let you off the hook with another lost item report. Look at me. It's no secret I'm already out of the loop. After all, I'm friends with Mr. Edgeworth. Depending on how this case turns out, I may already be as good as terminated. What? So, at least let me do this. For Mr. Edgeworth's sake. Alright, Detective. Thank you. Gumshoe's ID tucked swiftly into pocket. Yay, Gumshoe's ID. Let's look at it. Detective Gumshoe isn't very photogenic, is he?
Whatever you do, just don't say that to his face.
Look, his eyes are half shut.
Yeah, and his mouth is half open.
Hey, each of his shirt buttons is off a notch.
And he's got the narrow end of his tie in front. I think this goes beyond being a photogenic issue. Oh, he needs someone to help him get dressed, doesn't he? Needs someone to button his shirts and tie his ties for him. Woo! Breaking and entering! Well, not really. I have Gumshoe's ID.
Here goes, Mr. Wright. We're in. If anyone finds us now...
Detective Gumshoe's a goner. If that happens, I'm counting on you to bail me out.
Eek!
Ah!
Sorry, I thought you were a ghost.
I didn't even know you could slap a ghost. God. Ah! Detective Gumshoe! What are you doing sneaking up on us like that? I wasn't sneaking. I was just worried something might go wrong. So I came too. If you're here, then what's the point in giving us your ID card? Gumshoe's ID crushed and rendered unusable in pocket. Hey, don't do that to my card! Great job at the stealth section, guys. I hardly ever get a chance to come in here, so I figured I'd have to look around myself. Besides, we're all in this together now. Like my favorite movie, High School Musical.
You really do want to get fired, don't you?
Not if we're lucky. Now, come on. Let's see what we can find out. I've got a bad feeling about this. Okay, I guess I'll talk to you again. That desk on the other side of the room. Was that your sister's?
Yes. That's where I was waiting for Lana. On that day 2 years ago.
Never wanted a character I like to lose their job so badly. I'm so with you. Is anyone using it now? No, sir. This is entirely Chief Gant's office now. He practices a strict policy of preserving the crime scene. That's a strange reason to leave it there. He leaves it as a warning to everyone else. He wants us to always be alert. He told us so himself at our New Year's party. Of course, he was pretty intoxicated at the time. I see.
So ever since Lana left, no one ever touches that desk?
No one except Chief Gant, and the cleaning lady who's in here each morning. Still, 2 years have passed since that incident. There can't possibly be any clues remaining. Can I ask you something? Sure. You only came here to look around, right? Because it's one of the SL9 crime scenes. I mean, that's your only reason for coming here, isn't it? Why do you ask? You don't think... Nah, you wouldn't be... No... No, there's no way. Never mind. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now then, let's look around a bit more. Hey, hold on! Not so fast, buddy. Huh? What is it? When someone tells you don't worry about it, it's supposed to start bothering you, pal. You don't just let it go at that. Sorry. This guy is starting to get on my nerves. Okay, so what's bothering you? You two don't think... Chief Gant might be a suspect, do you?
What? He's right, Mr. Wright. What do we think of him?
Well, chat, what do we think of him? Vote now on your phones. Got one vote sus. Tar and feather the bitch. He's orange. Okay, those are all some fair assessments. Chief Gant. So it's finally come to this. What do I think of him? Perhaps it's best I don't divulge my feelings. Yet. There you go, ignoring me again. Aww. So now let's put our dirty little mitts all over everything. Like the safe, that seems suspicious. This is a safe, isn't it? Safe. That word is ripe with intrigue. Okay. If you say so.
It looks like a code needs to be entered in this panel to open it.
A 7-digit number. I think I just might know what it is. Do you know what it is? I have a hunch. Oh, I know. You want to try my birth date? It's... No, I want to know what Gumshoe's birthday is! Shut up, Phoenix! I have a better idea. Here goes nothing. Let's see, what was that ID, the last remaining ID number that we don't know about? Bingo.
What number did you enter?
Whose birthday was that, pal? 7777777. The final ID card number on that record.
What?
The number of the mysterious executive officer who entered the room that day. You mean 7777777? That ID number? I think you're 1-7 shy this time. This can only mean one thing. That's Chief Gant's ID number.
Say, anyone care to look inside?
Is there any money in there? How much does he have stashed away?
Look, it's
a shard from a broken cup. This somehow looks familiar. Where have I seen this before?
There's something else in here, too.
What's this? It looks like a piece of leather cloth.
This is a handprint, isn't it?
Hey! I saw someone wearing a shirt like that once. You think the chief made up the design?
I don't think so.
Oh. Well, it was just a thought.
Is that it? This is all that was in that safe?
Apparently so. It's empty now. A piece of cloth with a handprint on it, and a broken shard from a cup. They look like pieces of evidence. Yeah, but unless you can prove they have something to do with this case, I'm afraid I can't just let you take them. After all, it's my neck on the line here. Great. Now I have to prove their relevancy to get them. How are these two items related to the SL9 incident?
Come on! There's gotta be something we can show the detective.
Okay, well... I know what one of these pieces goes to. That's the last piece to this jar. Detective Gumshoe, could you have another look at this jar? I remember when the three of us put that back together! Ah, those were the days. It's kind of early to be nostalgic. That was yesterday.
Wasn't this jar a piece of evidence from that case?
That's right! One of the shards had an SL9 incident sticker on it. Doesn't this ring any bells? You know, that fragment we just found? You mean this one that was in the safe?
Yeah, this one. That was in the safe.
Now that you mention it, it's ringing a lot of bells! Let's see if it fits. Here, let me see that shard. I'll take a crack at this. Go ahead, pal. Show us what a rookie can do.
Mr. Wright, here's some glue.
If I can piece this together again, it'll prove Chief Gant was knowingly hiding evidence. Here goes. There! Fits like a charm. That, of course, means Chief Gant willingly and knowingly hid a piece of this jar in his safe. In other words, he concealed a piece of evidence from the SL9 incident.
But...
Hey guys, get a load of this! What is it? This piece you just attached. It's different from the others.
there's a reddish line on it.
A reddish line? That's blood. I don't get it. Why would Chief Gant hide this in his safe? Unstable jar, updated in the court record. Okay. Evidence from the SL9 incident, final fragment found in Chief Gant's safe, blood traces. Okay. So that other piece is a piece of cloth with a handprint on it, so I guess if we can prove it has fingerprints of someone related to this case, that should get us somewhere. Detective Gumshoe, I'd like you to have a look at this. Hey, I know what that is! So, you want to take some fingerprints?
That's a great idea, Detective!
Alright, go to town! Sheesh! Not your fingerprints. What are you doing? Why are you sticking out your hand like that? Go ahead! Take my fingerprints!
That's... it's not your fingerprints we want to take.
See, if he did that to me, I would just hold his hand. I would simply hold Gumshoe's hand. Huh? Come on, this isn't the time for jokes. We're talking about that cloth we found in the safe. Oh! I knew that. The one with the handprint on it, right? Sheesh, where's your sense of humor?
Okay, Mr. Wright, let's check for prints. Sprinkle the powder on the cloth, then once they've been absorbed into the prints, blow the rest away.
What are you, my mom? I'll have to be told 1,000,000 times. Alright, let's get this over with. So, that one looks like the best. Okay, let's not camp. No Meekins, not Marshall, not Goodman, not Gumshoe, not Lana. Oh shit. What? No. How can this be? What are M's fingerprints doing here?
Hey, you found a match? Whose fingerprints were they?
Huh? Oh, it seems the prints are too old. They aren't clear enough to get a match.
Oh, that's too bad. I thought they'd be Dark's prints.
Psst! Hey you! Over here! What's going on here? What are that kid's prints doing inside the chief's safe? Don't ask me. Let's just keep this information from Emma for now. Here. Maybe you should hold on to this. Okay, piece of cloth, found in Chief Gant's safe. Evidence for something, but what? Bears Emma Sky's prints. Alright, let's examine a little more.
Wow! Look at the size of Chief Gant's desk!
Speaking of that, we were here earlier. Oh, it's you two! Chief Gant! He put that paper he was reading in his desk. I wonder what he was reading? This looks like a list of evidence. A list of evidence. In most cases, the list runs twice as long as this, though.
Hey, look at the case name!
Huh? SL9 incident. I wonder what this is doing here. Hold on, Detective. What did you just say? I said, I wonder what... No, about evidence lists. Normally they're twice as long. That's right. I guess there wasn't a lot of evidence. A half-sized list of evidence. The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. What would the other half of the list be doing here?
I knew it! The chief must be hiding something about that case.
It would appear so. Okay, evidence list. List of evidence in the SL9 incident. It was ripped in half, so this part is all I've got. Well, was I any help? Of course! Thanks to your ID card, we were able to get some hard evidence. Now that's not very kind, is it? In other words, if it wasn't for his ID card, he would have been useless. Isn't that right, you in the coat? Chief Gant! We didn't think you'd be back so soon. Fortunately, I'm a man who believes in signs. As I was walking to my meeting, I happened to look out a window and saw a stray dog run into a pole. Just then I thought of a certain detective. Do you mean... me, sir? Now then, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you all to leave.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Oh, you in the coat. Me, sir? Drop off your ID on the way out. You won't be needing it anymore. But, sir... Now get out. Yes, sir. We'll be on our way too, then. Wait. You, the one without the spiky hair. Don't go yet.
Me, sir?
I'd like a word with you.
But, sir, I'm not a licensed scientific investigator yet.
You with the spiky hair. You're free to go.
Mr. Wright!
Oh my god, don't leave her in there! Look, pal, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. The chief's office is off limits. But no, you just had to go sneaking in there like that, didn't you? I thought you said you didn't care anymore if you were fired. Yeah, but if I knew it'd be like this, I never would have said it. Now that I've seen the evidence that Chief Gant was hiding in his office, I think I'm finally starting to get the picture. But why is she kept eerily silent about this all this time? Anyway, you listening to me? I'm gonna try to smooth things over with the chief again. Later, pal. And can you, go rescue Emma, maybe? After that, I heard from Emma. She said the police wanted to ask her some questions, so she'll be busy for the rest of the day. I see. So the chief asked Emma to come in for questioning. It's no use thinking about it. Tomorrow's the final day in court. I'm committed to doing everything I can to defend you, which is why I'm here. But I've already told you all I can. What you've told me over these past couple days is absolutely nothing. Not a single useful thing.
Really? I believe I did mention something quite important. Something I told you right at the beginning. I said that I was the one who stabbed Detective Goodman.
You know, I think I've finally figured it out. I know who it is that's lurking behind your words.
Mia did a good job mentoring you. I'm rather jealous. It seems Edgeworth was right.
Edgeworth?
And once you're convinced you know something, no one can persuade you otherwise. Thick-headed is the term he used, I believe.
Now's my chance to get her to tell me the rest of the story. I have to admit, I was more than a little perplexed at first. You insisted you did it, yet there was no incriminating evidence. That's when it hit me. It's not that you're unwilling to tell the truth. It's that you're incapable of doing so, because of a certain individual.
What an intriguing notion. A certain individual, you say? So you think I'm protecting this person?
Protecting? No, I think afraid of is more like it. If I'm not mistaken, the person in question may have persuaded you to silence.
For argument's sake, Mr. Wright, who, may I ask, is the person you're speaking of? The one I am supposedly so frightened of? What is this person's name?
Yep. Right here. Well, Miss Sky?
Mr. Wright, you are addressing the Chief Prosecutor. Do not forget your place.
I take it she's still not ready to spill the beans.
My apologies. Could you please tell me a bit more about what you think you know? We were partners until 2 years ago. I respected him as a detective.
Assuming he is respectable, then tell me something. Why would he try to hide his crimes?
His crimes?
Both you and Edgeworth will be brought before a board of inquiry for what you did. Specifically, hiding and forging evidence.
Of course, these are serious offenses.
Why is it, though, that Chief Gant's name was never mentioned?
Chief Gant?
Edgeworth didn't know the truth behind the forgery. The only party who could have possibly tampered with the evidence was...
me. I had access because I was second in command of that investigation.
Yes, you, but also one other. Damon Gant.
If you intend to accuse Chief Gant, you'll need more than just words. Show me proof that Chief Gant falsified evidence in that case.
The too short evidence list. I just found this in a safe in the Chief's office. This jar piece, and this piece of cloth. Do you know what these are? They're pieces of evidence from the SL9 incident. The person concealing evidence was none other than Chief Gant himself. Now tell me, why are you taking all the blame for him?
Touché, Mr. Wright. It's as you surmised. I cannot disobey the Chief's orders, even if it means being found guilty for murder.
Why not?
Come now, Mr. Wright. You can't possibly expect me to be able to tell you that. 3 days ago, I had no choice but to cooperate.
In the murder of Detective Goodman.
Or perhaps I should say, follow orders. Yes, that's more accurate than cooperate. Although I can't tell you the details. I can say that I was given an order that day.
I need you to dispose of Bruce Goodman's body.
You'll find it inside the trunk of Miles Edgeworth's car.
Just as I suspected. Despite what everyone believes, you were not the one who murdered Detective Goodman.
Correct. I was trying to take the body out of Edgeworth's car. The trunk's lock was broken, and I discovered that murder weapon while inspecting the body.
The murder weapon? You mean Edgeworth's knife?
No. When I found the body, this was the knife stuck in it.
The knife from the SL9 incident. Serial killer Joe Dark's knife.
I couldn't just leave that knife in him, so I took it out and stabbed him with another knife.
That would be Edgeworth's knife?
That's right. Even though he was already dead, my hands were shaking at the thought of stabbing him. That's why I ended up cutting my hand.
And that is the reason for the bandage on your right hand?
Yes. It seems I got blood on the victim's shoes as well. And then... she saw me just as I plunged the knife in.
Ms. Starr, huh? Why did you need to hide Dark's knife so badly?
It took a lot of work to finally close the Dark case 2 years ago. It was over with. I didn't ever want it to be opened again. My intent was to prevent that by whatever means possible.
So, you hid Dark's knife?
The weapon used to stab the detective was evidence in the Joe Dark case. If word got out, which it would, the reporters would have had a field day with that.
So, you wrapped the knife in your scarf and hid it in Edgeworth's exhaust pipe.
Right. Then I called my sister to tell her what happened, and to ask her to hide the knife that was inside my muffler.
You asked Emma?
I didn't want anyone on the force to know about this.
That would explain why Emma is so confident about Lana's innocence.
Speaking of phone calls, I had a bad feeling about one of them that day.
A bad feeling?
The truth is, after I received those orders from Chief Gant, the first thing I did was make a phone call. A phone call to Patrolman Jake Marshall.
To Marshall? Why on earth would you call him?
The lead investigator for the SL9 incident had been murdered. I wanted that fact to be kept hidden, and I needed help. He was the only other person I could trust. Or at least, I thought I could trust him at the time. However, it seems that after I spoke to him, he went off on an escapade of his own.
Oh, you mean...
Not wanting the case to die, he decided to take things into his own hands.
He disguised himself as Detective Goodman and tried to steal the evidence.
He had already stolen the ID card, but it seems he still hadn't made up his mind to break into the evidence room. After my phone call, any remaining doubts he had must have disappeared.
So your phone call caused the incident in the evidence room?
I'm afraid that's all I can tell you.
But Lana...
You've earned my respect, Mr. Wright, both as a defense attorney and an investigator. Now please, don't pursue this any further in court tomorrow.
Tomorrow's trial. There's only one way to drive off Lana's demons. I've got to get to the bottom of everything. Detective Goodman's real murderer. And what went down in the chief's office 2 years ago. Okay. And that is where I will have to leave you hanging until next week. God, that is the longest investigation portion in any game. Okay, yeah. Sorry to keep you guys on edge for a week, but that's just how the cards have fallen. Good night, everyone. Hope you had fun, and I hope everyone gets a good night's rest. Good night, all.